A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India and the United States continue to deepen their strategic partnership with growing alignment on global security, trade and counter-terrorism. From diplomatic engagements to strong statements against terror networks, both nations are reinforcing a shared vision for stability and cooperation. This strengthening cooperation was on display at a special exhibition highlighting the human cost of terror, where strong messages against Pak-backed terror networks took center stage. India and the United States have significantly deepened their partnership in recent years, expanding cooperation across defense, technology, trade and global security. On the international stage, New Delhi and Washington are finding increasing alignment on key geopolitical challenges, from maintaining stability in the Indo-Pacific to strengthening coordinated efforts against terrorism. This shared outlook was evident at the exhibition, The Human Cost of Terrorism, organized by the Embassy of India, where US Congressman Brad Sherman strongly criticized Pakistan, describing it as a hub of terrorism and calling for firm action against groups such as Lashkar-e-Taiba. Echoing this sentiment, Sherman stressed the need for sustained global pressure on states that back terror networks, warning that incidents like Pahalgam and past attacks such as the 2008 Mumbai attacks serve as stark reminders of the devastating human cost of inaction.
We have to fight the outrageous terrorist organizations which on April 22nd in your country killed people on the basis of their religion in Kashmir. Not to mention what happened in Mumbai many years ago. Our intelligence services need to work together, and we need to demand that those countries that shelter terrorists, including, unfortunately, Pakistan, clamp down on these organizations when they realize the human cost, which is illustrated in this exhibit here, where we see the individual lives that have been snuffed out by terrorist action.
Beyond security and counter-terrorism, this strengthening partnership is also gaining momentum on the economic front. Economic engagement remains a key pillar of the India-US relationship. Talks on the proposed bilateral trade agreement have resumed in Washington, signaling renewed momentum despite recent geopolitical tensions in West Asia. Both sides indicate that negotiations are in advanced stages with only a handful of issues left unresolved. Experts believe that external disruptions, including tensions involving Iran, are unlikely to derail progress. Trade experts argue that with India already pursuing agreements with partners like the UK and the European Union, a deal with the United States would further strengthen its position in global supply chains and boost bilateral economic ties.
No, I don't think there will be any changes because the draft agreement is already discussed. It is on the table of both. And on the basis of that draft agreement only this meeting is called. So I don't think there will be much changes. And let us start with the agreement, bilateral trade. Let us move forward rather than keep it pending for a long. Like we signed with UK, we signed with European Union. Why not we sign with USA also? As it is, USA is our biggest trading partner and investor in India. So let's move forward with the intention of doing business together.
At the leadership level, engagement between PM Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump continues to underline the importance both sides attach to the relationship. President Trump recently described Prime Minister Modi as a friend, noting a productive conversation amid rising diplomatic activity around West Asia. Strategic experts point out that stability in the region is crucial not only for energy security but also for advancing key multilateral initiatives.
President Trump and Prime Minister Modi had a call the other day. It went well, quite well. I think our interest is that there should be peace in the region ASAP. because the sooner there is peace in West Asia, the sooner two of our key strategic initiatives, other than our energy security and other than the safety and security and jobs of our Indian workers in this region, we are interested in expediting, accelerating the I2U2, which is India, Israel, UAE, USA, that initiative. And secondly is the India, Middle East, European corridor.
Today, the relationship is driven by shared strategic interest, countering terrorism, ensuring maritime security, strengthening resilient supply chains, and promoting emerging technologies such as semiconductors and clean energy. India marked the anniversary of the Pahalgam terror attack, remembering the lives lost in one of Jammu and Kashmir's most chilling incidents. The attack once again exposed the continued threat of cross-border terrorism backed by Pakistan. Even a year later, the wounds remain fresh as families seek justice and the nation demands accountability. With global calls to curb terrorism growing louder, India has reiterated its stand that terror and talks cannot go together, sending a strong message against those supporting violence from across the border.
On April 22, 2025, Pak-backed terrorists struck in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, targeting innocent people in a brutal attack that shocked the entire nation. As many as 26 people were killed in the assault, marking one of the deadliest attacks in the region. Civilians were signaled out and attacked on the basis of religion, creating panic in the tourist destination. The incident highlighted the persistent threat posed by terror groups operating with the support from across the border. On the anniversary of this brutal tragedy, the nation remembered the victims with grief and resolve. The silence of Pahalgam now carries echoes of that painful day, reminding the country of the human cost of terrorism. However, following the attack, India's response went beyond condemnation. The Pahalgam attack marked a turning point, triggering a decisive and calibrated response under what has come to be known as Operation Sindoor. India's message was clear: acts of terror would no longer go unanswered.
The Pahalgam terror attack, which completes 1 year, was a horrific and horrendous terrorist attack carried out by the Pakistani armed and trained terrorists, in which the victims were selected on religious profiling and killed in front of their lady wives, telling them to convey a message to the political leadership. India struck back strongly and swiftly, thereby establishing two main points. One, nuclear armed nations can go to war below the nuclear threshold. And two, modern wars and conflicts can be short and swift. Thereafter, Pakistan has not had the courage to carry out any major terrorist strike in India, because India has conveyed that Operation Sindoor is ongoing, and in case Pakistan dares any misadventure, it will be met with a befitting response. This has clearly changed the security architecture in Asia, especially in South Asia, where India has made it clear to any neighboring country which carries out any terrorist attack on India, the response would be equally befitting as was given to Pakistan.
Investigations and intelligence inputs over time have pointed towards the involvement of Pakistan-based terror outfits which continue to use Jammu and Kashmir as a theatre to push their agenda. Despite repeated warnings and evidence shared by India, Pakistan has consistently denied any role, even as terror networks are believed to find safe haven on its soil, a pattern of denial that has persisted for decades. This is why Operation Sindoor was conceived, not merely as a retaliation, but as a clear and decisive message that acts of terror would invite a strong and measured response.
If you look at the complete operation, it's a very good example as to how an enemy should be punished should he carry out any act which is against India's national interest. Not only we punished Pakistan heavily, but we also ensured that our aim of the war was very clear. We wanted to destroy the Pakistani terror camps, which were destroyed completely. We thereafter went in for conflict termination when we realized that we had achieved or objectives.
Even a year after Operation Sindoor, questions remain over whether the international community has done enough to hold Pakistan accountable for its continued support to terror networks. While several countries condemned the attack and called for action against terrorism, experts believe the global response has largely remained limited to statements, falling short of sustained pressure needed to bring about any real change.
1 year after Operation Sindoor, has there been adequate international pressure by the world on Pakistan? The answer is very simple. While world per se did condemn Pakistan and issue statements condemning Pakistan's terror attack, but this has mostly been a lip service. Pressure to some extent does exist, but there is no enough pressure on Pakistan so that it abandons its path of violence and stops state-sponsored terrorism.
As India remembers the victims of the Pahalgam attack, the message remains firm. Terrorism emanating from across the border will not be tolerated. With Operation Sindoor, India has drawn a clear red line, signaling that any act of terror will be met with a decisive response. However, until Pakistan dismantles the terror infrastructure operating from its soil and is held accountable by the global community, the threat of cross-border terrorism is unlikely to fade. For India, the resolve is clear: zero tolerance for terrorism and unwavering commitment to protect its citizens.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent. The Japanese government has approved a significant revision of its defense export policies, removing most restrictions on overseas arms sales and allowing the export of warships, missiles, and other military equipment. Speaking at a routine press briefing, Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Chiara said the move considered Japan's most substantial change to export rules in decades was necessary to strengthen national security while also supporting stability in the region. Students in Dubai resumed in-person classes this week after 7 weeks of remote learning, with parents and educators warmly welcoming the return to normal routines and face-to-face interaction. At GEMS Al Barsha National School, students arriving by bus were greeted by staff waving UAE flags, and banners were displayed to welcome families back on campus. Parents noted that although online learning had worked to some extent, it could not match the social benefits of classroom learning. Vietnam's leader To Lam held talks with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, marking their second engagement within a year. The leaders met at the presidential palace, where Lee was formally welcomed with a guard of honor before the discussions began. Accompanied by a large business delegation, Lee was in Hanoi for a 2-day visit centered on strengthening cooperation. Their talks led to the signing of multiple agreements, while both sides reaffirmed their commitment to deepening economic ties and expanding bilateral trade in the coming years. Bangladesh is grappling with the deepening fuel crisis that is disrupting transport, agriculture, and everyday life across the country. Long queues at petrol stations, limited fuel supply, and rising uncertainty have left citizens struggling to cope. From stranded passengers to anxious farmers fearing crop losses, the crisis is taking a visible toll on livelihoods. As global tensions continue to strain oil supplies, concerns are mounting over food security and economic stability.
Bangladesh is facing a growing fuel crisis that is disrupting daily life and putting pressure on transport and essential services across the country. With supply constraints and rising demand, the shortage has triggered widespread concern among citizens and businesses alike. Long queues of buses and other vehicles were seen outside petrol stations in Bangladesh's popular resort district of Cox's Bazar amid fuel shortages following hostilities in the Persian Gulf. Drivers reported waiting for hours to refuel, delaying scheduled departures to various districts. They also complained that the amount of fuel allocated to each vehicle was insufficient for long-distance journeys. Since the start of the US-Israeli war against Iran, Bangladesh, like many other countries, has faced fuel shortages linked to disruption in global oil supplies.
সকাল থেকে দাঁড়াইছি তেলের জন্য সিরিয়াল দিছি কতক্ষণ হয়েছে আনুমানিক এখন কয়টা বাজে দেখেন সকাল 8টা থেকে হিসাব করেন এখন 1:30টা
The fuel shortage is also severely affecting daily commuters, students and small transport operators who rely on regular fuel access to sustain their routines. With strict rationing in place, many are receiving only limited quantities of fuel, making it difficult to complete even essential travel.
যেগুলো রেন্টটা আছে প্রতিদিন চলাচল করে ওরা তেল সংকটে পড়ে গেছি যেটা আমাদের অনেক কষ্ট হয় ডেইলি মনে করেন 2 লিটার তেল খাই এটা নিয়ে আমাদের আপ ডাউন করতে দিতে হয় যে আমরা ইনার থেকে আসছি প্রায় 1.5 লিটার তেল চলছে
The crisis is having a serious impact on Bangladesh's agricultural sector, particularly during the crucial paddy cultivation season. Tens of thousands of farmers are struggling to access diesel needed to run irrigation pumps as fuel shortages and long queues delay watering schedules. Late March marks the beginning of paddy sowing, a vital period for a country where rice is the primary staple food. Any disruption during this stage could significantly affect crop yields and farmers' incomes.
দিনের বেলায় তেলের জন্য দাঁড়ায় থাকছি আর রাতের বেলায় এসে জমিতে পানি দিয়ে চাষ দেওয়া হয়েছে সেচ করা হয়েছে তারপরে হলো চাষ দিয়ে হাল বাওয়া হয়েছে তারপরে ধান রোপণ করা গেছে আর এমনিতে দিনের বেলায় কখনো একটা জমি চাষ করতে পারে নাই মানে ওই তেলের দিনের বেলায় যে তেলের পাম্পে দাঁড়ায় থাকা লাগছে সিরিয়াল দিয়ে ঘন্টার পর ঘন্টা মানে দিন সারাদিন চলে গেছে গা তারপরে তেল পাওয়া যায় নাই
The ripple effects of the fuel crisis are now being felt across Bangladesh's wider economy, raising concerns over inflation and supply disruptions. Transport delays have slowed the movement of essential goods, leading to rising prices in local markets and adding pressure on already strained households. Small businesses and daily wage earners are also feeling the pinch as higher fuel costs and irregular supply disrupt their operations and income. In both urban and rural areas, uncertainty continues to grow as people struggle to adapt to the ongoing shortages. Experts warn that if the crisis persists, it could further impact food production and economic stability, particularly in a country heavily dependent on agriculture.
The Great Run of Kutch in India's western state of Gujarat is a landscape where the horizon fades into endless white. The shimmering salt desert may look surreal, but life here is tough, and for years, education remained out of the reach for many children. Now that story is changing. Buses have been transformed into mobile classrooms, bringing learning directly to the salt fields where children are studying, exploring new technology, and shaping their dreams. Known for its vast white landscapes and endless horizons, Kutch in Gujarat holds a beauty like no other. This land tells two contrasting stories. On one side, the vibrant Great Run, and on the other, the quiet little run shaped by hard work and resilience. Here, the Agaria community spends months producing salt, living in the fields with their families. For their children, education was once a distant dream, but that's changing. Mobile schools have turned simple buses into classrooms, bringing learning to the heart of the salt plains, ensuring that their future no longer stays out of reach.
माता पिता के साथ नमक के काम के लिए जो अगरिया जिसको गुजराती में बोलते हैं वो आते हैं और उनके साथ उनके बच्चे भी आते हैं तो उनके माँ बाप जो है वो अगर में अपना कार्य करते हैं और उनके साथ जो बच्चे आते हैं यानी बाल वाटिका से लेकर कक्षा 8 तक यानी 9 स्टैंडर्ड के जो बच्चे हैं वो यहाँ पढ़ने के लिए आते हैं और गुजरात सरकार द्वारा यहाँ जो सभी सुविधाएं भी दी गई है, जैसे कि ये बस की सुविधा दी गई है, टीचर और टीचर के साथ 2 और टीचर भी है, यानी कि कुल मिलाकर हम 3 टीचर यहाँ काम करते हैं। बच्चों को 10:30 से लेकर 5 बजे तक हमारा यहाँ पढ़ाना रहता है।
In the middle of the desert, these simple buses have turned into classrooms. Inside, you will find books, a blackboard, and a strong desire to learn. Education truly on wheels. Children like Jayesh and Rinku, who migrate to the little run of Kutch each year with their families, can now continue their studies without interruption. Places may change, but their learning does not, and neither do their dreams.
ભણવાની ખૂબ જ મજા આવે છે ને અહીંયા જેવું ગામમાં ભણીએ એવું અહીંયા જ ભણીએ છીએ. અમને રોજન મધ્યાહન ભોજન પણ મળે છે, રોજન ચીકી પણ મળે છે, નાસ્તો પણ રોજન મળે છે.
હું ધોરણ 8માં ભણું છું. મને ભણવાની બહુ મજા આવે છે. અહીં રમવાનું સાધન પણ છે, જમવાનું પણ હોય છે, ચીકી આપે છે, દૂધ આપે છે.
In the vast, wide expanse of the little run of Kutch, these mobile schools have emerged as a beacon of hope for the children of salt workers. Powered by solar energy, supported by modern technology, and complemented with nutritious meals, learning now continues right in the heart of the desert.
बच्चा यहाँ रहता है तो उसको खाने के लिए दोपहर में जो अपने स्कूल में मिलता है, ऐसा ही मध्याह्न भोजन की व्यवस्था गवर्नमेंट की ओर से की गई है। पौष्टिक आहार के लिए प्रोटीन, कार्बोहाइड्रेट सब मिले, इसीलिए उसको सीजन के अनुसार चीके भी मिलता है इधर, और अलग अलग फ्लेवर के मिल्क भी दिया जाता है, यानी कि बालक का पूरा विकास हो सके।
In the wide expanse of the little run of Kutch, mobile schools are bringing new hope to the children of salt workers. This initiative shows that even the toughest conditions can't stop dreams. Here, it's not just salt that shines, the future does too.
From salt fields to school desk, dreams are finally finding direction in the run of Kutch. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.